It was just another quiet afternoon in the small town of Millbrook when the 911 call came in. The dispatcher, a seasoned woman named Linda, expected the usual. A fender bender, maybe a noisy neighbor. But what she heard on the other end was different. A young boy's voice, trembling but determined. "There's a girl in the woods. She's hurt." The police officers who listened to the recording later chuckled. The boy, 10-year-old Ethan Carter, was autistic. His speech was halting, his words sometimes unclear. To them, it sounded like a child's imagination running wild. "Buddy, are you sure?" one officer asked, half smiling. Ethan didn't smile back. His deep brown eyes locked onto the officers with an intensity that was unsettling. "She's by the creek, near the big oak tree that fell last winter." There was something in his voice, an eerie certainty, that made Officer Dan Harris pause. Against his better judgment, he decided to humor the boy. "All right, kid. Show us." Ethan climbed into the patrol car, his small hands gripping the seatbelt tightly. He didn't speak much, just pointed, left, right, straight ahead, as if following, some invisible trail only he could see. The officers exchanged glances. This was getting weird. Then, deep in the woods, near the fallen oak Ethan had described, they found her. A little girl, no older than 8, curled up in the hollow of the tree. Her clothes were torn, her face streaked with dirt and tears. She looked up, terrified, until she saw Ethan. "You came," she whispered. The officer stood frozen. How had he known? There had been no reports of a missing girl yet. No search parties. Nothing. Ethan simply knelt beside her, carefully touching her wrist. "Your heartbeat was loud," he said softly. "I could hear it." Later they would learn that the girl, Sarah, had wandered away from a camping trip hours earlier. No one had even realized she was gone. The woods fell silent. No birds, no rustling leaves, just the heavy breathing of the officers and Sarah's quiet hiccuping sobs. The flashlight beams trembled slightly in the officers' hands, casting long, wavering shadows against the trees. Officer Martinez, a burly man with a graying mustache and a reputation for never backing down from a bar fight, knelt beside Sarah, his usual gruffness gone. His big hands, usually clenched into fists or wrapped around a coffee cup, hovered awkwardly over the girl's shoulders, like he was afraid to touch her. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked like dry kindling. "Kid, you saved her," he swiped at his face with the back of his hand, leaving a streak of dirt across his cheek. The other officers shifted uncomfortably, their boots scuffing the damp earth. One of them, the young rookie who'd chuckled loudest at Ethan's call, kept opening and closing his mouth, like his brain couldn't settle on what to say. Ethan just stood there, his arms limp at his sides, the cuffs of his jeans soaked with creek water. He didn't understand why Martinez's eyes looked so shiny in the flashlight glow, why the usually loud men had gone so quiet, why the air felt thick, like the moment before thunder. To him, it was simple. Sarah had been there, calling, waiting. But the way Martinez looked at him now, like Ethan had hung the moon instead of just following the sound of a scared little girl, made something warm unfold in his chest. It was a strange feeling, not quite like the prickly heat of too many people staring, but something softer, something good. The rookie finally found his voice. "How'd you even—" Martinez cut him off with a sharp look, then turned back to Ethan. This time when he spoke, his voice was steady. "You're a hero, son. A hero." The word bounced around Ethan's skull as the paramedics arrived, as Sarah was wrapped in a foil blanket, as flashlights and radios and voices filled the woods. Heroes wore capes. Heroes were on TV. Heroes didn't hide under their desks during fire drills. Yet here was Martinez, a man who'd once arrested 3 drunk cowboys at once, looking at Ethan like he was the one who'd done something impossible. And for the first time in his life, Ethan wondered if maybe, just maybe, the way he heard the world wasn't a problem to fix. Maybe it was a gift. Ethan blinked up at the circle of faces surrounding him. Officer Harris's weathered frown, Sarah's mother's tear-streaked cheeks, the paramedics' raised eyebrows, their expressions twisted with something he couldn't name. Wonder? Disbelief? It made his skin itch. To him, it had been obvious. Sarah's voice had cut through the usual noise of the world like a knife through paper. Not with his ears, but in that deeper place where he felt things others didn't. The same way he knew when a storm was coming hours before the clouds rolled in, or when his mother was sad even when she smiled. The trees had whispered directions in creaks and groans. The earth beneath his sneakers had hummed with Sarah's fear, vibrating up through his bones. Why was everyone acting like this was magic? It was just how things were. That night, while the town gathered at the firehouse with casseroles and balloons, while Sarah's father wept into his beer at Millbrook Tavern, while Officer Harris sat awake replaying the day's events, Ethan sat cross-legged on his porch steps. The night air smelled of cut grass and the distant charcoal smoke of someone's barbecue. Crickets sawed their legs together in the darkness, their rhythm perfectly syncopated with the flicker of lightning bugs near the hedge. His mother's hand settled on his shoulder, warm and solid. "You did good, baby," she murmured, her voice thick, in that way it got when she was trying not to cry. Ethan leaned into her touch, just slightly. He didn't understand why saving Sarah was such a big deal. She'd been right there, loud as anything. But he liked the way his mother's pride settled over him like a blanket. Above them, the Milky Way stretched across the sky like spilled paint. Ethan tilted his head back, letting the constellations press against his eyes. Somewhere out there, the universe kept singing its silent songs. And for once, that didn't feel so lonely. Ethan just nodded, his small shoulders rising and falling in a quiet shrug. Words were hard sometimes, like trying to catch minnows with his bare hands. The way people looked at him now, with their wide eyes and parted lips, made his skin prickle. He dug the toe of his sneaker into the dirt, focusing on the way the gravel crunched beneath him, the sound sharp and clear amid the buzzing of his thoughts. For as long as he could remember, the world had pressed in on him. Too much, too bright, too loud. The hum of fluorescent lights in the grocery store, the scratchy tag at the back of his shirt, the way his mother's perfume clung to the air long after she'd left the room. And the sounds, oh, the sounds, whispers from 3 classrooms over, the groan of the old water pipes in the school basement, the hiccup in Sarah's breath when she'd first seen him in the woods, relief crashing over her like a wave. Most days it was exhausting. Most days, it meant hands clamped over his ears in the cafeteria, or hiding under his desk when the fire alarm went off, or kids snickering when he rocked back and forth to make the noise in his head quiet down. But today, the too muchness had meant something. Today, the way his pulse roared in his ears like ocean waves had led him straight to Sarah. The way the trees seemed to lean in, whispering this way, as he pushed through the underbrush. The way Sarah's fear had vibrated in the air like a struck bell, clear as anything, even though no one else seemed to hear it. His mother squeezed his hand, once, gently, and he didn't pull away. Across the parking lot, Officer Harris was watching him with an expression Ethan didn't recognize. Not pity, not amusement, something new. Later, when they passed the police station on their way home, one of the younger officers nodded at Ethan through the glass door. No laughter. No, "Hey kid, hear any more crying flower pots?" Just a quiet tilt of the head, respect, or maybe even awe. Ethan blinked up at the sky, where the first stars were starting to appear. Somewhere out there, the world kept spinning, full of sounds only he could hear. But for the first time, that didn't feel like a curse. It felt like a secret, and Maybe, just maybe, that was okay.